Hey everyone, Bridget here. Today I want to talk about being empathic. And what empathic means is that you feel everything. And sometimes that can lead to being super overwhelmed, feeling anxious, just sensing, highly sensitive, extrasensory to what people are thinking, what people are going through, and you often can't discern between your own energy and other people's energy. So that would be what being empathic means. So why are people empathic? It's kind of interesting because right now in our history in this global transformation, a lot of kids coming in our age and younger, so the indigo generation and even older people too, are highly sensitive. We're different kinds of souls. We're more ancient. We've been through a lot of stuff. And often that would be called starseeds, so we have galactic connections. So with this extra sensitivity, we can feel more, we can sense more. It's almost like having a superpower. But here on Earth, it's kind of overwhelming. It actually reminds me of Superman, where when he comes down to Earth, because he's from another planet, he's hypersensitive and can feel everything going on, and it's just really intense and he can't function. And so that's kind of what happens to a lot of us who are very sensitive. So how do we deal with that? Like, what do we do with it? You know, there can be social anxiety, the social intensity that can happen, as well as just feeling everything. The first thing to do, because oftentimes the people that are empathic, we're all born with it, you know, but it gets enhanced when we're younger in childhood, because during childhood some traumatic things may have happened. Maybe your mom always yelled at you, or you had an abusive situation or something like that, and so all of a sudden that empathic ability becomes super enhanced because what it is used for is a survival mechanism. And so that oftentimes happens with people. So when you have this as a survival mechanism and you're going out and in the world just with anyone else, you're going to use it the same way that you developed it in a childhood setting, which would be, okay, I'm going into a party, I'm going into a store, I'm going into a situation. I'm going to scan everyone. I'm scanning the whole room. Is it comfortable? Is it safe? Oh no, that person feels uncomfortable. Oh, I might want to say something to make them feel more comfortable. But I can feel them, and then that's making me uncomfortable. So there's a lot of sensitivity happening in this scanning, and this scanning comes from not feeling safe. And so I ask you now, was there a time in your childhood where just something happened and this ability became enhanced and used as a coping mechanism? And it's amazing that we have it, because now we can sense if there's danger. But in a normal situation, there usually isn't. And in a social situation, there usually isn't. And so to always have that operating system running isn't going to be as helpful, because then you can't actually be in your own energy and enjoy life. You're always mixed up in figuring out what everyone else is feeling. And in my case, I didn't have anything traumatic necessarily happen when I was younger, but it was my ability to feel loved. So I wanted everyone to feel good around me. And so I could sense when someone was feeling left out, because I was often left out. And so in parties or social situations, I would sit there and focus on that person that was feeling excluded and feel what they were feeling. And then that ended up kind of not assisting my own enjoyment. And there can be times of service, of course, where you're just going to go feel everyone and really take care of them. And then often other times where you're like, you know what, I just want to be in my own energy and I want to enjoy myself. So then there's these other circumstances where you just feel super overwhelmed. Say there's someone that's really powerful, or someone's really upset, or someone's angry, and you just start to fold and melt into this ooze of that energy, and you just get overtaken by it. You get overwhelmed. And it might not just be a person, it might be in a situation when you're in a large group of people. And so what do you do in that case? And what you're going to do is you're going to, first of all, get in your center, get in your own energy. And remember, this is a superpower. And it can be used in all different ways. And one of the ways that it can be used is that instead of feeling victim by it. Because oftentimes if we've grown up having this ability, it's kind of like, oh no, I'm victim to this energy. And if we can step into the power of it and go, you know what, this is awesome. Now, how do I use the superpower? How do I harness it? And if you can do that, you can stay more in your own energy, because first of all, you're conscious that you're sensitive and you're like, I'm going to use this. So then when someone comes to you that's angry or you're in a certain situation, you have the ability to feel what they're feeling. So it's like, okay, let's figure out the origin of why they're feeling what they're feeling. Oh, they don't feel loved. They're super stressed out. Whatever the case may be, you can actually go beyond that sensation coming to you and go into the deeper reason of why they have it in the first place. And from that place, you can have compassion for why they're feeling what they're feeling, and then it won't be as overwhelming. You can understand there's a rapport that's created. I just mentioned staying in your center. What does that mean? And a lot of people talk about boundaries in the spiritual community, and I tried for a long time to understand that concept. You know, it's like you got to have strong boundaries, and it never clicked, it never worked, and I could never do it. And I think one of the reasons is because if you have a boundary, that's a wall, and that means that you're resisting something. You're creating opposition in the very definition of creating a boundary. And I don't want to create resistance to anything, because when you create resistance, it persists, it grows, and then it becomes more of a problem. And anything that comes into our life is here to teach us. So I receive the energies coming towards me. Does that mean I have to agree with them or engage with them? No. But I need that reflection to see what's going on outside of me so that I can move forward. So instead of a boundary, what I like to call it is being in my own center, being in my own energy field, which is a little bit different because I'm not resisting what's coming towards me. And so how do you get into your own energy field? Well, if you've been an empath all your life, you probably don't even know what your own energy is, which is interesting because you have so many different influences of maybe energies running through your body, and you're so used to just kind of taking it on that you don't know what it is. So one of the great ways to start feeling your own energy is to be alone. That's a great way, is to just get yourself in a situation where no one's around and start to feel, just start to, whether it's meditate or just be alone in your own presence, you're going to start to get what that feels like. And also getting away from technology in those spaces, because you're going to then take on the technology, or you're going to take on the TV show. So it really has to be in a quiet space. Now, the other part of this that's interesting is you might be alone, but you can then still feel stuff. So this happened to me a lot when I was living in Los Angeles. I wanted to leave Los Angeles so bad for so long, and I didn't. And it was because I was resisting it. It was because I was wanting to run away. And instead of resisting, I went into it. So in that space, the interesting part is I was just feeling so much there that's one of the reasons I wanted to leave. So I would have been, in those last 2 years, alone quite a bit. And I was living in an apartment there in Santa Monica. And I remember distinctly that that every Monday morning, I would wake up with almost like an anxiety attack. I was like, I gotta go, I gotta work. And I didn't have a formal job. At the time, I was doing my oil paintings in galleries, and I was doing different healing sessions. So I was self-employed. But I would feel all the apartment building, everyone getting up and anxiously stressed out going to work. And I would feel their whole energy field. And finally, I was like, instead of being frustrated by it and being like, I'm anxious and it's not even mine, I went, okay, how do I utilize this? What do I do with this? And because you can perceive, so then it's like, how do you step back? How do you be witness to the situation and consciously then play with it and move with it? So what I did is every weekend, the energy was amazing. The energy was so peaceful because everyone was going to the beach, having fun. So I used the weekends as my time for creativity and for production, because that was the time where the collective field was the least intense, the least stifled. and I didn't feel as much intensity. So there's these ways you can work around it. I say all of that because, so you can be alone, yes, but then within wherever you're alone, there's a collective field that is still influencing. So if you're especially in a very populated area, you're going to feel the overall tendencies of that collective field. So when I'm in Los Angeles, everyone is a bit more, very, very creative. So you're going to feel the good things too. You're going to feel extra creativity. You're going to feel overworking. You're going to feel stressed out. You're going to feel this like kind of sexual tension. There's a lot of sexual energy there. So there's these things that each field has in and of itself. So if you can, in this developing and cultivating what your own understanding of your energy is, if you can extract yourself from the collective in which you inhabit, and that might be also family situations. Maybe you live with your parents or you're with a partner. You might just be so immersed in all these other energies you just don't even know. So you're going to need to get yourself out of everything. You're going to need to get yourself in nature for quite a few days, or a meditation retreat, something to get yourself completely away, to start to begin to feel what is you. And then as this develops, and there's many techniques to do this, which I can go into in other videos, but through meditation, through qigong, through yoga, just through like conscious breathing and self-inquiry, you can begin to feel yourself. And as you feel yourself, your energy field will begin to grow. You'll be able to sense your energy field. So then when you come back into these situations, social situations, whatever it may be that would overwhelm you before, they're not going to overwhelm you in the same way, because your field is strong. You know who you are. And then as the energies come in, you can play with them, you can dance with them, and you can say, do I agree to this energy? Because that's the thing, is it feels like in a way we have no control over this, but we do. And that's the secret. Once we really cultivate this superpower, is that we have the ability to go, no, I don't agree to that. Or, yeah, I wanna go into your pain. Whichever it is, it's great, but you always have the ability to choose. And if for some reason you don't feel like you do, that might just be a negative belief that you took on from someone else. And that's the thing too, is we don't have to take on all this stuff. I mean, we're pretty wise souls to go into this life right now with all this intensity and all this sensitivity, but that doesn't mean that we have to take on all of the other people's stuff or the collective stuff, because really what we're needing to do is brush all that like garbage and junk and energy away and feel what our true selves are like, because that's the fastest way that we can really bring positivity, really bring true assistance to the world and shift to a great new earth, is by being our true selves. And so really not pushing away, but slightly sweeping away these other energies that might not be yours is going to be great. And when they do come towards you, you can work with them, you can understand them, you can love them. And so this is really becoming very adept at this skill, at this super special technique. And this is a lot tied to anxiety as well, because if you're super sensitive and you're feeling overwhelmed, then it turns into anxiety. So I'm going to do a video on anxiety so that you can understand what to do with anxiety, maybe when you're in that place of overwhelm and you're just screwed and you're just, okay, I lost my center, what do I do now? So I'll do a video on that so that you can understand that a bit more. But if you have any questions about this, please comment below, because it's such an interesting subject, and it's been a long time for me to really get into my own energy, to really get into my center. I mean, right now I'm living in Sedona, and in some of these sacred sites, which you probably hear me talk about a lot, they don't have dense collective fields. So the collective field, which is the overall thematic structure of humanity, the beliefs, the thoughts, the impressions, that would be a collective field. And so in these collective fields, there's a bunch of stuff that you're going to feel. You're going to have a tendency. If you're in the Midwest, you might be like, oh, I need to go get a burger. But if you're in Los Angeles and Santa Monica, you're like, oh, I need to get a kombucha. Like these things create tendencies. So in these sacred sites, these collective fields just they're much more light, they're much more malleable. There's not as much of a density to it, so you have the ability to create from your center whatever you want. You can imagine a new world quite clearly because there isn't as much density. So that's been really helpful for me. And at the same time, I want to make sure to still participate in humanity, because if all the empaths move to the middle of nowhere, it's not going to be helpful. We need to also participate and really work on alchemizing this gift and these energies coming in. So it's been a long time for me to understand it and work with it. I've been overwhelmed and completely lost myself, in group community settings or in relationships. And it's like, okay, time to get back up and let's start again. Like, let's try this again. And ultimately, eventually, you'll get it.